Monday, he came out and said, you know what? If you people on the right are pretending this is anything other than MAGA that shot Charlie Kirk, we all know what shot Charlie Kirk. It was a gay, trans, furry-aligned individual. If anybody could go out there and point to me a gay, trans, furry-aligned individual that is MAGA, please let me know. Renegade Online. Jimmy Kimmel impasse follows years of growing tensions between local TV stations and broadcast networks. Now listen, again, the Hollywood left wants to fool you. The Hollywood left wants to lie to you. They have been lying to you. These people are demons. They are evil, and they want to lie to you. We're not putting up with the lies anymore. We're not putting up with the bullshit anymore. The bullshit is done. The Renegade Nation, pardon my French, doesn't give a flying fuck about their bullshit anymore. And good on places like Deadline magazine like this for actually reporting the news. Deadline, THR, Variety, they're not perfect. They're mostly ingrained with the Hollywood left. But every now and again, they actually put out something honest. And we're going to give the honesty credit where credit is due. This from David Hayes. Listen to this story, because just like we talked about Thursday when Ron Coleman was on the Renegade Nation, and we pulled up the fact that, oh no, we found out that night that it wasn't just the local broadcast partners like Nexstar and Sinclair that pulled the plug. Oh no. Lo and behold, that we actually had multi-million-dollar national advertising partners that were calling into the Walt Disney Company, to DAS, to Disney Ad Sales, saying no on Jimmy Kimmel. The Walt Disney Company and the left want to gaslight the American people into thinking that this was entirely engineered by Donald Trump as of some kind of violation of free speech through his acolyte, Brendan Carr, at the FCC. Well, guess what? This has now been laid bare as absolute, abject, unequivocal f***ing bullshit. Here's the piece from Deadline. Let's go through it. Shall we, kids? More than a few viewers and observers, even some who work in the television business, were surprised that local station owners Nexstar and Sinclair made the first move in the Jimmy Kimmel saga by pulling his show off the air. Were they really surprised? Jimmy Kimmel's late night television show, as most of late night, has been the ass end of space when it comes to television viewership. There are fewer people watching Jimmy Kimmel than Saturday Night Live. Okay, which is already in the toilet, has been in the toilet for years. But let's pretend that the surprise here from Hollyweird, California, from Transifornia, let's pretend for a minute that the actual surprise is heartfelt and legitimate. Warning signs, however, of discord between networks and affiliates had been flashing for years. No shit. Although the Hatfield and McCoy relationship has been fraught since the birth of the medium, streaming and cord cutting has turned financial skirmishes into existential contest. There have recently been battles over the 10 p.m. hour and fights about, quote, leaking of premium sports and prestige shows from broadcast to streaming. Late night then as now have been a battleground. In 2020, NBC Universal had to walk back plans to stream Jimmy Fallon and, well, Seth Meyers at 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Peacock, I suppose, respectively, after an affiliate revolt even bigger than the one that greeted the ill-fated Jay Leno primetime experiment in 2009. Now, look, let me say this. Here's the difference, is that we've talked about it. Go follow me on X, Valiant, where you can see the like. harbinger of truth. Follow on X at Valiant Renegade. Valiant with 2 L's and without the E on the end of Renegade. By the way, guys, hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It's free. Let me tell you what. We said this before that, they've been trying to drag the there's astroturfing going on. A lot of astroturfing. We're going to get to this later. You're about to see an interview here with Caroline Reed from Forbes magazine, from the London Times, from the UK Daily Mail, people who write articles that crush Disney on a regular basis. This is typical Disney stuff. Disney loves to fool you. Disney loves to obscure the lines. Disney loves to use bullshit. They're liars. Bob Iger's a liar. Dana Walton's a liar. They love to use lies and obfuscation to mask the fact that outside of, let's face it, the theme parks out there for Disney, everything is absolutely collapsing, and there are many out there who would argue that the theme parks are also falling apart. Universal Studios is about to become a huge beneficiary of Disney's failure in the next 5 to 10 years. Just telling you now. Money, according to Deadline, is at the crux of it, of course. Through all the challenges, or all the changes, pardon me, and in a pay TV universe that has shrunk from 100 million to 70 million households in linear cable subscriptions over the past decade, affiliates are asked to pay higher and higher fees for programming every time they re-up their 3-year agreements. And we've covered the news here, right? We've covered the news of DirecTV and Spectrum and Charter and so on and so forth, the renegotiations where they basically took the Walt Disney Company and raked them over the coals because Disney was asking for way more than their stupid ass was worth. That mouse isn't worth a hill of beans compared to where it was 15 years ago. Just isn't. It isn't. Okay? And especially now with Disney fumbling around like a bunch of short bus when it comes to their live sports broadcasts with ESPN flagship, whatever that is now, right? That's not going to go the way they think. I'm telling you now, Valiant Renegade's telling you now, been telling you now for a year, ESPN flagship is not going to drag in the money that the Walt Disney Company is planning for. Politics, however, cannot be subtracted from this equation. Sensitivities have been acute in the wake of the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, of course, which the left out there has celebrated unabashedly, disgustingly, unabashedly celebrated by the hardcore left. Frankly, I would argue these days, the mainstream left. I will tell you now, if you like these rants, get your butt on over to Renegade Nation up there in the corner, the other channel. It's hard to avoid these kind of topics on a Hollywood channel that we do here on the main channel because of the fact that Hollywood cannot segregate itself from hardcore radical communist left-wing politics. As Republicans mourned Charlie Kirk, they have also called out anyone who, in their view, appeared to have an inadequately respectful response to Kirk's death. Deadline, are we trying to suggest that Jimmy Kimmel's response was inadequately respectful? I mean, seriously? Kimmel, after posting a message of support and love to Charlie Kirk's family on Instagram in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, ventured into different territory this week with information. Right, Monday he came out and said, you know what? If you people on the right are pretending this is anything other than MAGA that shot Charlie Kirk, we all know what shot Charlie Kirk. It was a gay, trans, furry-aligned individual. If anybody could go out there and point to me a gay, trans, furry-aligned individual that is MAGA. Please let me know. To many on the right and in the generally right-leaning local TV business, the remark was more than merely insensitive. I want you to listen to this quote. I want you to copy and paste this quote that I'm about to read to you all over X. Because this bullshit from the left, I've fucking had enough of it. I have had enough of the left blaming the people on the right. And even though we can agree that Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, probably went out of bounds with making some statements that could easily be construed as Ron Coleman, our good friend here on the Renegade Nation. Ron Coleman said, look, this was done because Disney and we had the conversation on Renegade Nation. But he also said, Ron Coleman's credit, he said the statement by Brendan Carr is not, quote unquote, legally insignificant. And I'm going to be fair. The quote by Brendan Carr coming out there and challenging Disney, although he did not say that we want Jimmy Kimmel off the air, right? You could say that Brendan Carr maybe have implied sanctioning, fines, something. But taking Kimmel off the air was entirely Disney's thing. But his statements were not legally insignificant. Get ready for this. This is the pull quote. This is what shuts it down. We told you Wednesday. We told you earlier this week. This was a free market decision. And guess what, kids? Valiant Renegade was dead on balls accurate, right on the money once again. Here we go. Quote, unquote. He didn't tell a joke. He told an outright lie. TV station owner Armstrong Williams fumed on Friday in an interview on WBFF TV in Baltimore, Maryland. As a broadcaster, he says, we are held to a different standard by the FCC. We cannot allow lies and misinformation to populate in our markets. Closed quote. FCC restrictions along these lines, he added, have been in place for decades, but, quote, finally, they're being enforced. Let me reiterate this quote. This is a local ABC affiliate, the ABC affiliate in Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland is one of the largest media markets in the United States. Baltimore, Maryland also feeds Washington, D.C. And this is a local small business owner that owns this station, maybe some others out there, that said, no, Jimmy Kimmel's statements weren't just wrong. They were offensive and they were lies. Remember, the liberals out there, the progressives, the left, tried to tell us all week that this was just all a giant facade, right? This was a bullshit campaign from MAGA. This was Trump. This was Brendan Carr. No. Wait a minute. We have now on the record individual little local dudes, not really little, but you get my point, right? Local business owners come out on the record and saying, no. Quote, he didn't tell a joke. He told an outright lie. And as we stated earlier this week, for the people that don't understand it, the demographics of these local broadcast affiliates, a lot of people out there are easily confused. I'm not going to say gaslit because I don't think there's gaslighting on this part, but it's very easy to misconstrue the demographic nature of who these audiences are, right? You think of Baltimore, Maryland, and you look at Baltimore, Maryland, and you think, well, shit, Valiant, that is a deep blue city. You're right. It is a deep blue city. Washington, D.C. is a deep blue city. A lot of these major media conglomerates operate in deep blue urban strongholds. But don't forget that the bulk, in many cases, of the actual audiences are in the deep red suburbs that surround these Democrat holes. I gave an example the other night with Ron Coleman, and I said, look, you guys know I'm from New Orleans. And for those of you new watching, you're like, holy shit, this guy's from New Orleans. Where's his Savannah, Georgia accent? No, in New Orleans, we don't all talk with a southern drawl like we're from Savannah, Georgia. Okay? Here's the reality. Orleans Parish is a deep blue Democrat dumpster fire. It is a shithole of governance. What you have to understand is that even though you've got 350,000 people inside of Orleans Parish, living inside the city of New Orleans proper itself, there are surrounding areas. And all of those local media markets that serve the New Orleans market serve a much greater area than outside of that deep blue dumpster fire inside Orleans Parish. You guys call them counties outside of Louisiana. We call them parishes. If you look outside of New Orleans, the bulk of the advertising dollars and the potency, the money, where the money is in deep red areas. It's in Jefferson Parish. It's in St. Tammany Parish and other places around there, which combined have populations far bigger, 2-3 times the size of Orleans Parish itself. So going back up here, when you got these guys talking about like, yeah, I run the station in Baltimore, Maryland, and y'all think Baltimore is a deep blue city, he's not speaking to the audience that's in the deep blue Democrat crime-ridden crap hole that is Baltimore itself. There are all kind of very, very affluent or far more affluent suburbs, white, middle class, and upper middle class suburbs around Baltimore that his station is far more reliant upon for their cash flows and their advertising and their audience base. This is not, something that is isolated to Baltimore. Baltimore is a microcosm. This station is a microcosm for the vast majority of the rest of the United States. How did Trump get elected? He didn't get elected because of the deep blue, crime-ridden shithole inner cities. He got elected because of all of the deep red suburbs around them. That is the same thing here with these television stations. That is the same thing that killed Jimmy Kimmel. Besides Jimmy Kimmel himself. He didn't tell a joke. He told a lie. As a broadcaster, we're held to a different standard by the FCC. We can't allow lies and misinformation to populate in our markets. If you want to broadcast on the public airwaves, you are held to a higher standard. Period. End of story. Brendan Carr is celebrating, as Williams put it, after his threat against ABC and Disney set off a chain reaction that led Nexstar and Sinclair to make their move, followed by Disney. The station owners have reason to want to placate the Trump administration, and you can see Deadline goes down the apologetic hole here. But the problem is that this, what we just read, this right here, this is the problem. This is one station owner out of Baltimore, basically Washington, D.C. right here. Imagine the other station owners that didn't go on the record. Imagine the ones that did not go on the record. Jimmy Kimmel was the author of his own demise. Disney afforded him an opportunity to apologize. We covered that in a story from THR Wednesday. He said no. So therefore, Disney canceled it. Disney made the decision to cancel Jimmy Kimmel. Not Brendan Carr, not Donald Trump, not the FCC. Period. End of discussion. This is now beyond debate. Jimmy Kimmel could have been made to come out and apologize. He could have had a suspension, whatever. The FCC could levy fines against the Walt Disney Company. But you know what? The local affiliates are at the mercy of Disney ABC. And Brendan Carr, what he effectively did this week was to remind local affiliates, hey, if you guys don't like this, Y'all actually, under the law, under the regulations of the FCC, have the ability to tell Disney no. The problem is that they've forgotten about it over the years because Disney has been abusing their power. And not just Disney, but in this case, Disney has been abusing their power for so long, for so many years, that a lot of these local affiliates have forgotten their power. It is exactly the same thing as citing right now, today in 2025, that the individual 50 states in this union called the United States of America have forgotten their power. And they're starting to wake up. And the left doesn't like it. And the left wants to blame Trump for censorship. Jimmy Kimmel can go on YouTube, can go on Rumble, can go on Twitch, can go on Kick, can go start a whole new channel like Hassan and all these other twats out there. He can do that tomorrow. And it's fine. It's legal. He doesn't have the right to broadcast on a federal communications licensed station. And no, if you're CBS or your ABC or your NBC or whomever, you cannot spend 90% of your effort promoting Kamala Harris in a presidential election, which you did, and then claim impartiality and free speech. No, you have a public airwaves broadcast license. Your duty is to present a fair presentation to the American public. You cannot overwhelmingly 99% to 1% present one candidate from the Democrat Party and then for 10 years call the Republican candidate a fascist and a Nazi. No, your FCC license is going to get revoked, as well it should. Because you're not doing a public service. You're presenting a middle finger to over half the country that voted for Donald Trump. If you want to go present 100% Democrat Party opinion, then go do it on cable. Go do it on streaming. Go do it on YouTube or Rumble or wherever the hell you want to do it. But guess what? You don't get to do it with a public airwaves license. You don't like it? Sit and spin on both of these. Sorry. Spicy. We do spicy here. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.